Hello, Luci Friend, and welcome to the Trail Runners Association of Hong Kong China podcast.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, how are you doing today?
Yeah, good, good. Trying to hide from the heat a bit today, but otherwise doing okay.
Yeah, it's very hot today, but it's really
Yeah,
nice to see the sun actually after all the rain that we had, maybe.
true. Yeah, yeah. It's a toss up between one or the other, isn't it? At the moment, it's Hong Kong summer.
Yeah, I know it'd be nice to have a medium day where there will be some clouds and some small showers.
Yeah, that'd be nice. But yeah,
Yeah, alas not. Anyway, for people that haven't heard of you, because you're not, as far as I know, yet an elite trail runner, but I think still have some stories to tell that people might be interested in. Can you tell us a bit about yourself, starting with what brought you to Hong Kong?
so I came to Hong Kong, 2011, 2012, as a horse riding coach. Always sort of that's been my sort of job and what I do. And so yeah, sort of looking for a change of scene from the UK and Ireland where I'd been, and landed here. So I'm based up in the northern New Territories, really. So right near the China border, where there's a little bit more greenery than in the middle of the city.
Yeah, and some good running trails, I would imagine. Is that right?
Yes, some slightly less the sort of beaten path trails, although there's a lot of new development around here at the moment. So sadly losing some of those lovely natural trails. Yeah, hanging on to them while I can.
So how did you get into trail running?
Um, so I sort of have always explored like different places I've been when I've been sort of living and sort of on holiday by foot and different ways like that. And actually just sort of came to Hong Kong, started doing the same thing. I sort of made a mistake when I was first in Hong Kong and sort of had a little tourist map and tried to walk from up in the New Territories border all the way to Kowloon one day when I hadn't been here very long, and discovered that was a bit further than I should have go. But yeah, sort of then discovered the trails, and gradually sort of explored the popular trails, and then started just sort of going a little bit more off and off the beaten path, and realised that moving along them a little bit quicker where I could was quite fun. Yeah, and just sort of from there, really. I mean, I suppose I sort of hiked more, I guess, in the UK and Ireland, and that's sort of it, really. I mean, my friend did some local night trail races that I sort of supported her with, and then joined in a few myself, and that worked quite well for me. I obviously, being a horse riding coach, I'm outdoors working weekends quite a lot, so it was always difficult to get the time off. But these were like summer races in the evening, so it was out of our season, and that was probably the first sort of competitive stuff I did. Not competitive, but the first sort of events, really. So yeah, and then it sort of grew from there. So
What do you mean by evening races? Were these virtual races, or what do you mean?
no, there was a series. I mean, it was probably 2016, 17, something like that. There was a series of like summer evening races. I don't think they do them anymore.
Yeah, it's like the XCE series. It's like the
That's right, yeah.
XCE night race. Yeah, but some of them finish before dark because I think maybe it was the AFCV changed their regulations and so they wouldn't everybody finish before dark, which kind of a bit spoiled the concept.
Yes, yeah. I think I made some major mistake in the first one and ended up somehow in the elite category of the second one. I think it was just a fluke. And definitely wasn't anywhere. I got lost on the second one and was definitely not um, an elite anymore. So that was very short lived, but somehow managed to get a good enough time in the first one. And something I'll probably never forget again.
Yeah, I did one of those on Lantau where I didn't realize that the start of the race didn't have a place to drop bags. You had to go to the finish, which was in a different location, to drop your drop bag there, which was a few kilometers away. So I turned up at the start with my drop bag and realized my mistake and then had to go and find the finish. And by the time I did that and came back again, I was 20 minutes late for the start.
Uh,
But I felt like a superhero because I was overtaking people for the entire race.
yeah, sometimes there's something that gives you a little bit of status, isn't there?
And so
Yes.
you've done a lot of ultra challenges before your latest one. So before doing your latest
Yeah.
challenge, which was 100 miles, then what was your toughest one that you did before that?
I'm not sure. There's various things that have been sort of tough in different ways. I mean, I had a bit of a goal, a little bit as sort of a lot of people did during COVID. I sort of had a goal in 2022, I think it was, that by the end of the year I was like a sort of, a sort of yearly goal was going to do 100 kilometers. So I started off like running a half marathon just on the road in my own time because it was COVID. There wasn't any events in the January, and then life happened and various things sort of got in the way, and it took me until 2024 to actually complete my 100k that I had as a goal. And actually, there were events going on at that point, but they didn't line up with me with work, and I ended up just doing my own thing for charity. That was sort of really quite nice because there was no pressure. So I sort of did my first 100k on my own, which was probably the tougher bit of it, but I do most of my stuff on my own anyway. And I'd sort of self-designed my own course, going up Time O'Shan a couple of times, and so I parked at the bottom and did sort of loops out round it. And then sort of went, okay, that was okay. Now I need to do something that I'm a bit more accountable for. And that sort of January then, 2025, thought I'd throw myself into the scene a little bit more. And I'd helped a guy doing 4 trails. I'd been his supporter for a guy overseas, and decided that he was enough inspiration for me to go and try and do V162's 100 miles, but over 3 days. So they did the 3-day challenge where at the time you had to camp. So it was like 50k the first day, 50k, and then like final day's easy. It's only 25k, with obviously camping in between. And so that was quite tough. I did the first day in quite a good time for me. Barely slept that night. I think probably got sort of total 3 hours broken sleep on a concrete floor with some guys who were managing to be fast asleep and snoring next to me. And then the next day sort of just trundled on, but just got slower and slower and slower, and all the elites from the actual 100-mile in one go were coming past me, and I just felt really tired, like lost my appetite. My friends were brilliant and were crewing me at sort of midnight by Ma and Shan, and trying to give me whatever I would, and I just was like, I don't ever want to eat again. I mean, looking at me, obviously I did continue eating. That had been tough. And then I did the 100k with you, actually, where I got to know you a bit more in Lay Jack.
Oh yeah, the 3 days.
Yeah, that was fun. The second day was tough. Like, that was a big long climb up that bare hill, but then sort of came through that, and that was just a holiday really. And then this season I focused on the Hong Kong 100, got an entry. Was very, very lucky the first time I entered to actually get an entry, because I know it's super tough to actually sort of get into nowadays. And so sort of actually for the first time sort of properly trained and followed a plan. And coming into that, like, of course you get sick and everything like that the week before. So yeah, had all the things against me that previous week, but was really happy with that, like felt comfortable from that, and had decided I'd sort of revisit V162, but in a slightly different way. I wanted to do like the 9 Dragons 50-50, but with a week in between. So I went for the 50k for the 9 Dragons, and then the 80k of the V162. And the 9 Dragon 50k course is really tough. I'm sure you know as well. And we were sharing advice with that, really. I think I was slightly out. Well, I don't know. You might remember how far out of the cutoff I was, because you were there waiting for me.
It was maybe 40 minutes, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say I wasn't that late. I'd cramped a little bit, and I knew obviously I was sort of trying to save myself for the following week, because I really wanted to finish that 80k. And I'd sort of come out with slightly dodgy sort of knees and things, and then I'd cramped quite badly coming down Golden Hill Road and like along that section, which was tight on the time anyway. So that was tough. Spent a week not doing any running, hoping that I'd be all right for the 80k. On the start line, wasn't sure how far I was going to get. I mean, I didn't feel very good for the first 10k, but sort of warmed up into it and cracked on with it. And I think if I'd given myself a proper chance, I could have probably been more like, I got in well within the cutoff. And it was really interesting, actually, because like I got to the same points where the elites were overtaking me last year. I was like, why aren't they here? But because I was further along, so that was quite, and actually did Time O'Shan in the daylight rather than in the dark and things like that. So it was quite nice to sort of realise how much further on I was, even though I'd done okay, I hadn't done it in the same format completely, but that was quite nice to sort of have that progression, really.
Yeah, excellent. The thing I like about your story is when you were planning to do 100K, you could have chosen something nice and easy, maybe with a few little hills in, or a scenic course, and definitely no repetition. Just an exploration
Well,
course. But
I
you
did
chose to
turn it
go.
down in different ways. I went up
Yeah,
it one way and down it a different way, and then a different
yeah,
way again.
yeah. You chose to go up Climate Shan a few times, which probably
Yeah,
most
I did
people
it
wouldn't have
twice.
chosen. But I think that's a good epitome of your approach to these challenges. Like, there's no point in making it too easy, right?
No, no, I want to do it because I can, but I want to do it because it's a bit tough as well. I mean, like before that, earlier that year, I'd actually decided before the end of the season, I'd kind of wanted to do a 50K with the aim being then the 100K at the end of that year. And I did 50K, the Cycling Acton one, and the cutoff was just tight enough that I just missed the cutoff, and sort of had to shortcut back. So I still did over an ultra distance, but it doesn't officially count. It counts as a DNF. And sort of at the same time, I think they call it a sort of letter of condolence or whatever. I'd been accepted into Big Boar's challenge, Big Boar's backyard, and actually sort of took that on as well. And I mean, like that's just sort of laps up and down Bowen Road, isn't it? So I wanted something that was a bit softer underfoot and a bit more up and down than that was. I mean, potentially I could have done that for a very long time.
How far did you get in the big balls again?
I completed the 12 for that. Like I was over time for that one, but that was 50 miles or like 80K, isn't it? But yeah, that was the first time I'd really dipped into the ultra distance. So and like it starts at 9 p.m. So that was through the night really. So like super chuffed with that. I mean, when I think back to sort of how I finished my 100 miles and how I finished that sort of 50 miles first thing, and like every part of me was so swollen, my hands, my feet, I couldn't move. I live in a village house, which after an ultra is not ideal. And I had to get my flatmate to like literally carry all my stuff. I just left it at the door and went, go and get it, please. Bless her, she was lovely.
Are you upstairs? Is that the problem with the village house?
Yes, yes. I'm on the top floor. So it's 2 flights of stairs to get me up and down.
I have the same problem. That's always the worst part after an ultra, climbing the stairs.
Yeah, or coming down in the next morning.
Yeah, I've actually used my poles to go to work the day after some races, actually.
Yeah, it's handy. I think I'd slip on the tiles, but might have to take that too. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Is that too much info?
It was a rather long answer to my question, but I'm sure that people are interested, so that's not a problem.
I suppose people can fast forward if they don't want the answer.
Uh, so, what made you decide to plunge for 100 miles after you've actually only had, from what I've seen, one official ultra finish? You've got obviously your unofficial challenge. You've got the Big Boars, which I don't think it's listed on DV, and then you got over ultra distance in that Cycling 50, etc. But
Yeah.
I know the Hong Kong 100 was your first official ultra finish this year, and then shortly after that, you decided to go for the 100 miles. And so, what made you decide to do that? I'm glad that you did.
Yeah, well, I know people say, stick with the distance and get better at it. But I sort of feel like I want maximum time out and sort of, like I say, my weekends are very often work weekends. So I have to sort of book the time as a time off. So I may as well do something that's going to take me the whole day, or two, rather than it just be, a few hours. So not just that, and also because I'm not particularly fast, but I can keep going. And I've always sort of, even when I was younger, sort of been the one that keeps on going. So I just feel like, well, why not try something a bit longer and just sort of see if I can, really. And then looked at the sort of entry requirements for South Downs Way and I think I'd looked at it before because it's on the World Trail Majors, isn't it? And I'd looked at it before and gone, oh, well, there's no way I can't do 50 miles in under 15 hours or whatever the cutoff, whatever the official thing is. There's no way I can. And then sort of dug a little bit deeper and realised that, it didn't matter as long as I'd done a longer distance. So my Hong Kong 100 result counted as a qualifier. So I said, well, let's do it. That's sort of summertime, so we won't be so busy at work. And hadn't sort of considered the training and the time of year I'd be training. But sort of went, well, I'll go for it. And then chatted to you, and you sort of were thinking along the same line.
But you'd already entered before you spoke to me about it, so you can't blame me. You can't blame me.
Well, no, but you sort of confirmed that I hadn't made a completely stupid plan. Maybe a little bit stupid, but not completely stupid. So yeah, I think that was why I sort of went, okay, well, let's just give it a go. And there's beautiful courses all over the world. I was just sort of, I'd like to do 100 miles. Why not? And then sort of looked at the logistics, and I live on my own. I don't have friends that want to do crazy things like me. I don't have a partner or anything. So for me, it's as easy to sort of go off and do what I like wherever I want. But I didn't want to sort of end up in the middle of completely nowhere, or not able to get to the middle of completely nowhere. So sort of figured that logistically something sort of in the UK or something probably actually wasn't a bad bet. Although there are beautiful, stunning courses all over the world, really. It's given me sort of ideas that actually maybe I can. But so that was probably partly why as well. Don't really have any connections with anybody in that area, but just, it sort of worked out.
Yeah, I think it is quite a good course to do without a crew, would you say, because the aid stations are so good? I mean, there are some ultras where you do need a crew. Like I was looking at the West Highland Way, and you definitely need a crew because they don't actually have many checkpoints.
Yeah, so I think that is for sure. Like I've had some sort of support from friends and things, as I say here, but I've always planned to do things on my own and have aid stations or work with just carrying my own stuff or drop bags and things like that. I mean, like when I did my 100k on my own, I didn't have any aid stations except for my car parked about 25k apart each loop. So I've sort of been fairly self-sufficient, but I mean, that definitely helps when you've got aid in terms of fuel, water, and, any first aid or anything that could be needed as well. And they're just like, there's people out on course looking after you the whole way around. So like, couldn't have been sort of better in that regard, like for a first time race.
So spoiler alert, so you finished the race and I didn't finish the race. So congratulations for that. And I'm very, very, very glad that one of us finished, or at least one of us finished. But can you tell us a bit about how the race went, the highs and lows, and how did you feel at the finish?
Yeah, like I was thinking, because actually I didn't particularly have sort of any major highs or lows. One of the media team came past me and sort of shoved a mic in front of me and said, could you answer a few questions? And I think one of the question was sort of like, what are the highlights? And I said, oh, well, I'm just sort of trundling along, having a nice day out. And I thought, well, that's a bit of a stupid answer. I should have been a bit more, the views are beautiful and this sort of thing. But I was just sort of in my own world and just focused, really. I mean, I did appreciate the views and, the company and everything else, really. But yeah, in that moment, I gave a stupid answer. I think there were certain highs, like obviously finishing for sure. Actually spending time with different people on course and just sort of meeting. Again, somebody said it to me. I think one of the Asia Trail girls actually said something to me before about like the more people you hang out with that do these crazy things, the more crazy things you end up sort of doing. And you hear people that have done all these mad challenges, in the UK in the winter. And I mean, to me, that's just ridiculous. But for me, it was beautiful weather on the course on the day. I think a lot of people, I think you even said you found it quite hot, but having been training in the heat of Hong Kong, it was actually just really lovely. And I actually spent a lot of time like with a guy who was supporting another runner actually, and he was running along chatting to me. So again, that was sort of quite nice to have those nice moments, really. And then, I don't know, lows. I felt not particularly tired, but I was just getting really slow. And you've said it as well. I spent overnight, you just fatigue and sleep deprivation and everything like that. And all I did was just take like a caffeine shot. You can get them in 7-Eleven. I've just taken a few, and I'd had one in my drop bag. And they seemed to just sort of give me a bit of a boost that I needed at the moment. I didn't really realise why I was getting slow. I was just like, I'm just getting slow now. And I came into one aid station and just went, I'm slow. think I may be tired, but didn't sort of have any injury or anything like that.
After 80 miles, that's probably a fairly definite thing that you were tired.
Yeah, I think so. 80 miles in 24 hours. I'm probably tired, aren't I? But not like I didn't sort of feel at any point actually I was injured or felt like I was limping or anything like that. I was scared I was going to be too cold, but like even overnight wasn't too cold or anything like that. One bit that I'd recce'd in the daytime a few days before with a friend was like beautiful to do at like 2 a.m. with it being dry and not windy and not rainy. Like the day I recce'd it with sideways rain and wind blowing me off the ridge wasn't so fun. So that was quite a nice moment. Actually, I was just thinking about not having too many lows, but I spent about the last 8 miles in tears, bawling my eyes out. I wasn't upset, I wasn't sad, but I think that's sort of how that sleep deprivation came out. Yeah, and there was one poor what you call it, supporter in the last aid station sort of went, "Oh, come here, I'm going to give you a hug," and I'm not a hugger. It was probably the sort of a mistake he could have sort of avoided if he'd known. So I just sort of stood there rigid while he hugged me, and then carried on my way crying again. So yeah, that was sort of probably a low, but not a low really, I guess, because I was sort of bawling my eyes out, but not really sad or anything like that.
Well, I think it's normal to feel very emotional at the end of such a long effort, especially when I think you weren't very confident of beating the cutoff beforehand. I mean, neither of us were, and I think you were probably even less confident than I was. So, I think you rated your chances even lower than I did beforehand, would you say?
Yeah, well, I think like I know when we've done races before, I sort of end up a bit ahead of you. Then you sort of catch me and just sort of blast past me, and sort of end up finishing before me. And I sort of kept on expecting that. So I was sort of went, oh God, I must be making a major mistake. But I knew I'd sort of got to push on enough to sort of make it throughout the course. And then when I found out that you'd dropped out at an aid station and then seeing you at the next aid station I was at was, like, why hadn't you gone home to rest? And then again, sort of getting to the track at the end, and again you were there, and you could have gone home and been sleeping for a few hours by that point. But thank you so much for being there, and then, so that was sort of, again, you sort of see people and all the people that you've sort of seen sort of along the course and that sort of thing as well. And I sort of knew I had enough time on the track because it was one thing, like I knew it was going to take me over 2 minutes to run around the track at the end of the course, when you come sort of nearly through the finish. And so it was nice to sort of relax a little bit. And then the final finisher came onto the track as I was about halfway round, and I heard that being announced, like, oh, well, she's the final finisher as long as she doesn't catch Lucy. So I sort of had to push again just to make sure she didn't catch me. But yeah, I mean, that's quite exciting, really. And it makes for quite a good finish because everybody's there and can sort of see that. So that was sort of quite a good little high. And to get the extra videos and everything because you're following me. Although you could have run around the track with me or walked.
I could only help at that stage, I think. But it was great to see you finish. And in fact, I really enjoyed spending a few hours at the track watching lots of people finishing. Some people were really crawling around the track, and some people managed to run a bit like you. And it was a great atmosphere at the finish, I think.
Yeah. I feel like, again, something I'd heard it on a podcast or something, I think. Somebody said, like, they'd run a race, like, comfortably uncomfortable, but I thought, like, I can't be comfortably running around because I'm not fast enough to do that. But, so I've got to push just enough to be comfortable, but barely. So that was sort of my thought all the way through, really. And even on the track at the end, I thought, okay, well, I can still run. I watched back some of the videos of the winners and the people in the top 10 coming through the finish, and they're absolutely rinsing themselves down that, like, final downhill, and they're pushing as much as I am, which makes me think, well, like, it's not as easy for them, for them to be really trying to go for the course records. They've got to push too. So, it's a challenge for all of us, isn't it?
Yeah, so you finished 8 minutes under the cutoff, which was quite comfortable in the scheme of things compared to how it could have been.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, happy that it was comfortable enough. Like, I'd watched, well, I think you had as well, the video of the 50 course that was 6 weeks or so beforehand. and finished in the same place on the track. And like in the final 2 or 3 minutes, they had the final four come onto the track, didn't they? And I mean, like, I didn't want to be that person. One of the media team at the end of the race, who was sat there chatting with me, and he said, it makes for much more interesting media if you just sort of, at the gate, just wait a couple of minutes. And I went, no, I didn't want to be that person. But yeah, I know. So I spoiled the exciting finish that they could have had for the media. But happy I did.
Yeah, and so uh,
Yeah.
would you recommend that particular race to other people wanting to do 100 miles uh, and for a first 100 mile even?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was, like you said earlier, really good aid stations, and aid stations quite frequent. I mean, they had 12 or so aid stations, no, more than that, didn't they? I don't know. They had lots of aid stations anyway, lots of support. And it felt like quite a friendly, like it wasn't crowded. Like Hong Kong 100 was sort of crowded. Obviously, the trails are a bit different there, sort of quite close in Hong Kong, aren't they? But there were people on the course. It felt quite welcoming and, what's the word? Like, yeah, sort of busy enough, but not crowded, if that makes sense. So there were always people, and I've chatted to quite a few people several times, they'd sort of pass me on the uphills, I'd pass them on the downhills, and we'd sort of run the flats together and things like that. And so there's that sort of sense of community. It's like half the elevation of most of the Hong Kong races that I've done. Or sort of felt like for me, that was a little bit daunting because it's much more runnable, and I sort of discovered I don't actually like running. But yeah, like it's quite a runnable course. So for anybody that's looking for that sort of thing, it's not like a lot of races in other places in the UK might be sort of very boggy and things like that. It's sort of like chalky, flinty ground, so it's in some ways sort of easier footing and that sort of thing. It's not super technical. So for a first time, or either for a first time or somebody that wants to get a really good fast time, I suppose, on the other end of the spectrum, it's probably quite a good race to do. It's one of those ones that's on the World Trail Majors if people are sort of looking at that sort of calendar and those sort of events as well. So yeah, I mean, I would say it's a good one to do.
Well, I kind of thought that it would be going down an elevation would make it easier, but conversely, the fact that it was more runnable, meant you had to do more running and training in May
Yeah.
in Hong Kong, where the end of May was when we were trying to do our peak training. It was getting rather hot, I would say. How did your training go?
Yeah, I DNF. Well, I DNF'd quite a lot of those later training runs. That started with good intentions, and just like I had to weigh up. I'm not getting fitness gains off this now. I'm just killing myself. Like, there's no point, and I've got to go back and sort of stand all day outside tomorrow. It's not worth killing myself over. So yeah, like a lot of them, I would sort of turn into still being sort of, a pleasant hike, or a bit of a shorter sort of run, that sort of thing. But yeah, like again, I actually tried to sort of loosely follow a bit of a plan, and I quite like having something to keep me accountable, give me something to focus on. But like I say, very loosely, if the weather wasn't playing with me, I'd very easily just go, do you know what? Today is not going to be that long. It's going to be an hour less, or it's going to be 10K less, and make up for it somewhere else, or just hope a little bit.
Did you try to make your training more runnable than usual?
Yes, yeah. I mean, normally I'm just sort of happy to go and explore a little bit. I quite like recce running when I'm doing a Hong Kong race because it gives me a bit of an idea of sort of actually what the course is going to feel like. But yeah, it didn't really matter sort of what course I was on. And I'd sort of plan things that were flatter. I ended up doing quite a lot more on the road, which I'm not so much of a fan of. And hence why I said earlier, like, actually, I think I discovered I don't like running. and I sort of cursed the route a bit and went, well, why didn't I just pick something that's in the mountains and got lots of elevation and I can just hike it? It's got twice as long of a cut off. But, it put me outside my comfort zone. And the race itself kept me accountable, not just go, it's all right, I'm having fun.
I was wondering, do you think that having a job that's physically demanding, working outdoors, especially in the summer, do you think that helps your training because you get some fitness and strength training from your job? or do you think it's a hindrance because it eats into your recovery?
Yeah, I think sort of pros and cons really. Sometimes I might think, oh, I've overdone it if I'm then sort of not recovered very well and then standing and working the next day. What I did think was it's always giving me like hours on feet. A long teaching day, I'm standing most of the day. And I used to sort of have my endurance Tuesdays because I'd start early. So I start at 6 a.m. teaching, doing things all day. And then I'd go off for my long run on a Tuesday evening because I had Wednesday off. And it meant then I could recover on Wednesday. And I was running in the evening when it was a bit cooler, but it would make for a long day. But again, I'd sort of think, well, it's quite good, to practice those long days and knowing I can recover the next day. So yeah, I probably did a few sort of mad things like that, where I know I can come and sort of put in the recovery afterwards when it was suitable.
Yeah, well, one positive that I don't know if you appreciate is that if you're doing an overseas race and then you go out of Hong Kong and have a week before the race, did you have 10 days where you're not, standing around in the heat all day? Then I think your recovery, because also you went to the UK a bit earlier than me,
Yeah.
and the contrast with your job. Because I work at a desk and aircon most of the time, so I didn't have such a contrast between my working life and holiday life. Whereas I think for you in your
Yeah.
paper, you ended up, even though you did more running than I did, you ended up probably more recovered going into the race.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, just not being in the heat. I don't know. I think it was quite tiring when I went and sort of did a slightly longer than I should have done run along the cliff edge, and you're being not blown along the coast. I think you get sort of tired in a different way from that. But yeah, you're right. Like I came home and literally had to do nothing. So then actually, yeah, I can recover. I think I probably should have planned to have a little bit of that afterwards as well. I did get straight on a plane about 9 hours after I finished and go and visit my friends in Abu Dhabi, which I wouldn't recommend. My feet were very swollen, but it was sort of the day that worked. So literally, I could only catch up with them for a couple of days. So yeah, it's good to do that, and maybe not shuffling around the mosque the next day, but yeah, like I say, it would have probably been maybe better to have planned a day. Sorry, I've got a mosquito trying to attack me. Yeah, better to have sort of had a day before I flew out. Although there's something quite nice about sort of being with friends that I lived with before, so they were very happy for me to sort of slob around, and I didn't have to dress up to go out for dinner or anything like that. So like it's quite nice sort of having a bit of a finish line sort of day after plan as well, and not having all that faff. If I'd been in a hotel and had to sort of shuffle around people, I'd have felt awkward. So yeah, so there's that. I don't know. I don't even know what the question was. Sorry.
No, no worries. We were talking about tapering and recovery, I think. So on to the next question. So as we know, runners come in all shapes and sizes, and I'd say you're at the larger end of the spectrum. So what would you say to someone who thinks that they need to have a certain body shape before entering trail races? Do you think that you've had a good experience?
Yeah, I mean, I do quite often sort of, especially in Hong Kong, you turn up to the start line and sort of look around, and everybody looks like an elite. So I do sort of sometimes feel a bit self-conscious on the start line. Less so now because I just sort of do it, and I know people a bit, so I just chat to people, so it's all right. But then actually, a couple of kilometers into it, and actually you realise that actually I'm as strong as or stronger than some of the fitter looking people. And then I'm sort of, I don't really think about it then. So yeah, I mean, I know I could be lighter and I'd be probably stronger again, but I've accepted who I am now. So yeah, like just get on and do it. I mean, in the UK, I didn't feel quite so. I think trail runners come into all shapes and sizes. It's not quite such a body shape thing as it is, in other sports. And I know, like, I was put off doing like fit PE in school because my teacher at the time sort of used to turn her nose up at me because I wasn't the ideal physical shape, and I actually enjoyed doing sport and things like that. But I was sort of advised almost against it. So there's a bit of me that's kind of like proving her wrong as well. So yeah, I just sort of prove that I can and hopefully encourage other people to, get out there, try and move and be healthy, really. I think I'm a lot fitter than a lot of people who might look skinnier but be not so fit. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I think you're definitely strong, and mental attitude, very tough, and that counts for a lot. And as you say, it Southdown's way, because I hung out the finish line for a few hours. There were people of all shapes and sizes coming across. Some people finishing a few hours before you, that were larger runners as well, and also skinny people that were crawling around the track and didn't finish as strongly as you or the other larger runners. And so
Yeah.
I think it's definitely a sport that can accommodate lots of different shapes and sizes, and having physical strength and mental strength is obviously very important.
Yeah. Maybe I've got a bit more fuel in there if I need it. I can tap into.
So having finished a race where you didn't rate your chances of finishing, has this opened the door to thinking about other challenges that seem impossible?
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, I'm sort of looking for something that's a bit of a challenge. I want to find a bit of a limit. I've found that with the DNFs that I've had, and then sort of put in the work to get to another point. I mean, I watched some sort of mad fell running thing on TV in Wales when I was a kid, and used to go, oh, that looks really cool. I would never be fit enough. And now I'm kind of like, well, I'm doing that. So, not anytime soon. I know there would be work to put in, but you never know. There might be some other challenges in there. I mean, I've got a few things in mind. I mean, my next challenge is a little holiday, but yeah, there's some other thoughts in there, and maybe another little charity sort of effort at some point. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
So your next challenge is going to be Kazakhstan.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I'm doing the Action Asia, Kazakhstan. I haven't quite decided whether I'm gonna I haven't quite got the sort of training back that I thought I might. So I don't know whether I might just do the 60 or the 100. I haven't decided yet. I mean, it's quite flexible, so hopefully I can choose at very late notice which distance I'm signed up.
Yeah, I think 60 would definitely be a holiday for you rather than a challenge.
Yeah. Well, it is my birthday, so yeah, maybe I deserve a holiday. It depends how much I want a challenge to.
Yeah, and I think if you've got friends going, then I think it's definitely would be more fun to finish a bit earlier and hang out with them for longer.
Yeah. Yes, we'll see.
Well, Lucy, I'm going to wrap this up now. Congratulations again for finishing 100 miles. I really like your attitude of taking on challenges that seem like they're on the tougher side, and I hope to see you continue to do that in the near future.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Watch this space. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Hi, Michael. Welcome back to the Track Podcast. How are you today?
Pretty good. Late at night, a little cooler out right now, so it's good.
Yeah, looking forward to going somewhere a bit cooler.
Yeah. I'm going to the U.S. Tomorrow, so in Washington State, in the mountains a little bit. There's a lot of forest fires around there, so it's a little dry and hot and bad air quality. But where the race is, where I'm going to go pace a friend, is supposedly still on and still okay. So we'll see. But yeah, it'll definitely be cooler than here, though, for sure.
Yep, it's been a hot weekend. So have you had a chance to listen to my chat with Lucy?
Yes. Yeah, it was great. I like her spirit and her drive and determination. She seems very, I don't know the right word, nonchalant or casual, kind of about what she's achieving. Very just, I DNF, then I try a little bit more. Oh, I'm busy at work. And then, but she's doing some amazing things. And I do remember, because I was in I remember her when she did that 3-day Victoria 162. I did the 157. I mean, I did not the 157. I did the 57, the Lantau part. And we started the same time as they did. And so I remember her there. And then she also did the big board in 2024, where I was also in that. So I do remember talking to her a little bit and so forth, but I didn't really ever get to hear much about her. So it was really interesting to hear, and exciting with her 100-mile race that you were at as well, to hear about that finish. And Yeah, 8 minutes to spare, you said, so that's exciting.
Yeah, after nearly 30 hours, that is quite tight. But I think she could have gone a bit faster in the later stages if she had had a tighter cutoff. Like if it had been half an hour earlier, she might have been able to push a bit harder. I think she did stop at one of the final aid stations. I think she said she stopped for 25 minutes at one of the later aid stations, which she obviously could have cut out. She'd really had to.
Yeah, if I hadn't done a course before, I don't know if I would have been flirting so much. Because you never know what's in front of you, you know? So if you're running close, I always suggest just keep going, especially if you're close to the end. But yeah, I'm glad it worked out for her. And yeah, she did amazing.
Though it gets to the stage though where you really need to have sometimes you just need to have a good rest to enable you to go faster in the later stage, or especially if you need foot care, sometimes that can take a while.
That's very true. That's a very true point. That's funny because I've talked to friends recently who said, oh, I wasted too much time doing this or doing that. But yeah, maybe that wasted time is what allows you to get to the finish as well. So you never know. You never know. But it worked out.
I wasted too much time at the halfway checkpoint as usual in that race because I changed my shoes as planned. And then I realized it's something to do with my tendonitis in my feet, which only got diagnosed afterwards, that my feet were swelling up more than I expected. And so I changed my socks and shoes, and I put on thinner socks than I did in the second half of the Hong Kong 100 because my feet had been swollen then, and so I'd had trouble getting my shoes on. So I thought, right, I'll wear some thinner socks this time. And then I couldn't even get my foot back in the shoe with that one, and so I had to take them off, get even thinner socks. Luckily, I had a lot of socks in my bag. And that took an extra 5 minutes because then I still had trouble getting my shoes on the second time. And I need some shoes and socks that don't take quite so long to get on and off.
I've learned that lesson. Actually, 4 trails, when I did it the first time, after the beach section, I had got my feet all wet because the bridge was flooded in this little beach section, you know, like 15K from the finish. And so I swore I'd change socks, and same thing. I had really tight socks. I took off my socks and they were soaking wet, and I'm trying to it took me like 10 minutes to get the socks on. Like it was so hard to get them on because they were just such tight socks that I loved wearing. But like you said, your feet swelled and they were wet and I couldn't dry them well enough and everything. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just wasting time. What am I doing? You know, I almost put the wet ones back on. But then I said, okay, I got to learn from this little mistake.
Yeah, well, the problem that I ran into is that I didn't have any time to waste any time.
Yeah.
For that particular course, the cutoffs seem to accelerate in the second half. Like they have almost the same pace per hour throughout the whole race for the cutoffs. But of course, that becomes less generous in the second half, and so it feels as if the sweeper is accelerating towards you.
Yeah, you hear the footsteps.
Yeah, so at the what should be the halfway point, like I was over an hour ahead of the cutoff, maybe an hour and a half, and then by the next checkpoint, that was down to an hour, and then the final checkpoint I got to, it was down to 10 minutes. And I realized I had like 5 hours to go to the next checkpoint at the pace I was moving. And the cutoff was only 3. It was only 3 hours, which got a bit ridiculous. So then you don't have time to stop and fix any problems or do a hard reset.
Yeah, and that creates more problems, right? So it's tough. It's tough. Well, keep learning, and trying different ways and strategies and hoping for better days, you know?
Yeah, well, avoiding having physical ailments like tendonitis in the feet will probably help.
Yeah, definitely. Injuries always tough to do these longer races with.
Yeah. And I love the way also that she volunteered to support the Japanese guy, I forget his name, the one who did 4 trails a few years ago, and she was crewing him, and she volunteered to help him because she had a car and because she could. But she told me when I saw her at one of the ferry piers that she felt like she didn't know what she was doing and was kind of learning on the job, which is it's a fantastic attitude. She just throw herself in and help.
Yeah, I actually remember meeting her then too. I did talk to her then that year as well. Yeah. I remember that. Which was great. Yeah. I mean, she couldn't speak Japanese either, right? But she did just what the guy needed, right? Like someone to just take the responsibility and be there 100% for him. So it was amazing, even not knowing enough or not knowing the language, but he finished. I remember seeing her at the post box, so it worked.
Yeah, he had somebody else on the team as well. There was a Japanese lady, I've forgotten her name, that used to be a very good runner. She was helping as well. Lucy was the main person and was driving him.
It's cool.
Yeah. So since Lucy mentioned that she was doing a sort of back-to-back with the Nine Dragons and V162, have you noticed that the March calendar seems to be getting more and more crowded in Hong Kong, and now TNF have moved their race to March as well?
Oh, I didn't see that, really. Wow.
Yeah, and I think they're on the same weekend as the Lantau 70.
Oh, wow.
Which I think is a bit of a shame, because that will probably impact both races numbers and also the numbers of the races that are the weekend before. So you've got, I just listed them, Nine Dragons the last weekend of Feb, 27th to 28th. The week after that, you've got the Four Trails Ultra Challenge, which is where you take the ferry between Chuman and Tayo, and it's kind of a mini Four Trails that's I think it's 100 miles altogether.
That's the Four Trails Ultra Loop, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So that's the 6th and 7th of March. Then you've got the V162 from 12th to 14th of March. And then the weekend after is the TNF and Lantau 70 on the same weekend. And I'm sure that they had good reasons for doing it, but it's just a shame that the calendar's getting so crowded when there's probably almost nothing happening in December now.
Or even February, no? Because like Hong Kong 100 is January, right? Besides the last weekend, you said, but
yeah, I haven't looked at
February.
Yeah, I think it's mid-January again. Yeah,
I know it's teens something. Yeah.
Well, all the races have to avoid the Chinese New Year.
When is that next year?
I haven't checked. I don't have my diary open, but
okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all the races need to avoid Chinese New Year, but at least the China Coast is not back-to-back with any, and the Hong Kong Marathon, I think they're both not touching any of the big ultras this year, because I've always quite fancied doing the China Coast Marathon, but it's always on a adjacent weekend to the Hong Kong 100.
Do the full marathon at the China Coast?
Yeah, I've done the half many times, but I'd like to do the full sometime.
Yeah, I can promise you never once when I got done with the half thinking, oh, I wish I could run this one more time for the full.
Yeah.
So if you want, please feel free, but that's about enough.
Yeah, well, I just think I would enjoy that more than the Standard Chartered Marathon, because I've done that once before.
For sure.
And I got really hacked off when the courses merged. Like, I don't mind there being crowds of people if we're going roughly the same speed. And so it was obviously quite crowded through the whole way. And then once I'd already done 30 kilometers, I ran into the back of people that were walking the half marathon. It took ages to weave around them. And then after about half an hour, I caught up with the previous wave of walkers. And that was just coming out onto Hong Kong side. And I'd really had enough by then of just weaving around people.
Yeah, I remember having a moment of that too, like running in. All of a sudden, whoa, where did all these people come from? And it was like going around a loop, going up a bridge or something. I forget what it was, but basically getting onto the Hong Kong Island side. Yeah, just got packed all of a sudden.
Yeah, so you don't have that problem with the China Coast.
No,
in fact,
especially on the second loop.
Yeah, and you'll have plenty of space in the second. And it's nice and scenic, and for those of us that run around Discovery Bay, then the hills are not anything significant.
No, they're nice. They're actually gradual, nice hills. So yeah, besides the first one, but the rest are gradual. All very runnable. Yeah,
I mean, if you compare to like the Golf Course Road or something, which you probably wouldn't enjoy running at the end of a full marathon.
Or any part of a marathon.
But for people who are, wanting to get marathon PB, obviously it's not a PB course.
No, it's got a bit of elevation, yeah.
Yeah, but if you just want to, get some continuous running training, then I think it's still good, especially if you're a trail runner, you don't want to shy away from hills, right?
Yeah. No, it's a nice race, well organized. Yeah, it's good. Just 2 loops, that's the thing, right? Because you're basically doing the half marathon twice, so that's the mental part of it.
Yeah, but I always thought that it's mentally challenging to kind of run past the finish line and then have to keep going and do do another loop. But then if you've paced yourself doing that from the start, I think it's different, because like when I did the Hong Kong 50, having done the half, that finishes near Parkview a number of times, then I thought it was going to be hard to continue doing the second half when you run past all these people that are being cheered to the finish at the half. But no, I was looking forward to the second half. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I think it's just you. I remember one of my first Ironman doing the full marathon. It was 3 loops, and I was already catching up with people going in to the finish, going through my first loop. I got to do 2 more of these, and you hear the crowds and people cheering, and they're, hey, I'm finished. And you're like, oh my God, I got 2 more.
Oh yeah, doing repetitive loops is no good. And also, those are people that have finished the whole thing rather than having just finished a half.
Yeah. It's all, but yeah, it's all good.
But mind you, that's why I realized I enjoy ultras, is that I usually enjoy the second half more than the first. So then I'm doomed to keep doing longer and longer distances.
There you go. Yeah, as long as the time cutoffs aren't too aggressive, then yeah, I tend to agree. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's only been a week since I last caught up with you after the last podcast. So has anything else been happening? Have you been getting out doing any long runs in the heat?
Yeah, did a couple 5-hour runs, and then the super hottest day ever, Sunday. I almost died going up Tiger's Head, not realizing it was the hottest day ever. And I started like at 11 o'clock because I've been just trying to deal with the heat and try to, take it as an additional challenge going up Tigers and things like that. But I didn't realize how hot it was. It zapped me pretty. I had to change my plans because I ran out of fluids. Like just getting up Tiger's Head, I was almost out of fluids. So I said, okay, I got to change plans. Yeah, but luckily the easy run down kind of revitalized me a little, and a little dip in the stream helped as well. But yeah, it's really, really, really hot. But leave tomorrow for the US, and then hopefully a little cooler weather. And hopefully it's all cool when I get back in the end of August.
That well-known start of the cool weather season.
Yeah. Be in the teens, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I've still not been able to run at all, but I've been doing a bit of cycling. I did almost the entire New Territories cycle track on Saturday, which was also very hot. And I started off thinking, oh, this is super easy. Like me and a friend rented some mountain bikes, and we were just moseying along, super easy. And I thought, this is really pleasant exercise, nice breeze. And then just after several hours, the cumulative effect of being out in the heat with that many hours sort of started to pile on. And I think also in the second half, because we started it from the eastern end from Sha Tin, then the second half was a lot more stopping and traffic lights and things like that going through Yuen Long and Chinmen. You had to stop for pedestrians by all the light rail stations, so you kept having to stop, and then the sun was really beating down. And I discovered afterwards that the hottest place of that day was in Shengshui, which was 38.5, and at 2 p.m. And I looked at photographs taken around that time, and we were passing through Shengshui at 2 p.m.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just sitting there not moving, it's crazy hot. So doing a little bit of effort and just being out in that sun so long, it's awful.
Yeah, well, once we've survived that, then it makes everything else seem easy, hopefully.
Adjust and survive. Yeah.
And it hopefully means I can keep some kind of heat adaptation, even though I'm not running. I'm still getting out there suffering in the heat, so that should make getting back to running a bit easier, hopefully.
Yeah, for sure. When I wasn't able to run a few times, just being on the bike and doing walks and things like that helped transition pretty smoothly back into running. Of course, it takes a little while, but it's not as bad as obviously if you're doing nothing. Yeah,
I also did a hike back from Moyo up those lovely stairs on a very hot day as well. I can't generally do much walking. It hurts my foot walking more than running, actually. But stair climbing is fine. So I managed to drag Simon on a hike. We got the ferry over to Moyo and then climbed the stairs coming back, which is not most people's choice of a nice hike, but it was better to do it that way than the other way around, which is climbing up a long slope and then going down the stairs.
Yeah, 1,133 steps.
Yeah, we managed to do that. We managed to do that at 2 o'clock as well.
Yeah. Well, good workout.
Yeah, I've got to maximize the heat training if I'm not running. So
lose a kg or two.
Yeah, although it's probably just temporary fluid loss.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I also had an MRI last week, but I haven't had the results yet.
Okay.
And I keep
Okay.
looking. How long was it? How long does things take? I'm very impatient to get the results.
Yeah. Usually I get mine within 2 days.
Oh, really? Yeah, it's been 6 days now, but that included the weekend.
Yeah.
I should get onto the phone to them tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, usually they send it to the GP, and then the GP
Yeah.
gives it to you, right? So sometimes the GP may sit on it.
Yeah, he could be overrun with people having just got back from holidays and
Yeah.
been storing up a load of complaints until they get home.
Yeah. Hopefully it reveals some clarity for you.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't reveal that I'm just a whinging old fart.
Well, we all have a little of that, so you don't need an MRI. I'll tell you that's our path right now.
Yeah. Anyway, Michael, there's no point in us waffling on for no reason. So I will thank you for your time and wish you a very enjoyable sufferings doing 100 miles in the States, hopefully.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and hope you're out there running soon.
Yeah, well, good luck to Paul as well.
Yeah, thank you. I'll tell him. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.